Oh, did his mother fall down and hurt herself a week ago?
Call to order a regular common council meeting, Monday, February 2nd, 2015, 7:05 p.m. Roll call.
Maves?
Yes.
McIntyre? Davis?
Yes.
Thomas?
Here.
Mark Wellman?
Yes.
Chris Wellman?
Yes.
Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Confirmation of appropriate meeting notice.
Meeting was noticed on Friday, January 30th. Agenda is posted at BMO Harris Bank, the Post Office, Library, and City Hall.
Council acceptance of the agenda.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Personal appearances for non-agenda items. If there was anyone in the audience who wishes to speak, please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Sandra Novak. I live at 610 Washington Street. My question is why weren't the streets plowed last night? I've lived in this town since 1988, and the streets have never not been plowed. I have a bill for the city from the Comfort Inn, where I had to stay last night. My daughter had to walk 2.5 blocks to get to our house in the snow to get my medication, or I would be dead today. And you'd be facing a lawsuit for my husband for wrongful death. It's a good thing nobody in the Washington Street area had medical problems, because an ambulance would have never made it. I had copies of a conversation that took place on Facebook from the people of this town on an ambulance that the neighbors had to get out and push it out. People who got their cars towed because they got stuck in the street and they can't afford to get it out of town. Can anyone explain to me why the streets weren't plowed with only 8 to 10 inches of snow?
Well, it's not on the agenda tonight, so we're not allowed to speak about it in this setting here. We can talk to you afterwards and see if there's any way we can answer any of those concerns, but during the meeting here, we cannot discuss it because it's not an agenda item.
That's fine, but I think the people of this town deserve an explanation.
Being an ambulance driver, I'm kind of concerned about the ambulance getting stuck, because I made it through plenty of snowdrifts Sunday morning at 2 and 4 in the morning, but...
This was late Friday, this was Friday night.
Okay.
There was a 2.5 foot...
It wasn't snow on Friday night.
Snowplow push in at Washington and Stoughton Road that no ambulance would have gotten through.
Like I said, we can't discuss it here, and I live in the neighborhood. I'm right up behind you, so I know what we were dealing with. And
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I was here in 1990 on December 7th when we had 24.4 inches of snow in 24 hours, and all the streets were plowed.
I'd like to call a point to order, Mayor. We have, the agenda says three minutes limit, and we have other agenda items to deal with. So.
okay. Thank you, and if you want to stick around till after the meeting, we can discuss issues further here. Anyone else?
Corey Mayor, 301 Darrell. Same topic, basically. I feel that the streets could have been taken care of sooner. That we were pretty much kind of stranded in for a while there. There were stranded vehicles. There were tow trucks trying to get people out. I was a little concerned as well about emergency vehicles being able to get in and out. From what I heard, it's a policy, and I don't know how it all works, but there's a policy to not plow until it's done snowing. But I feel like maybe there needs to be something in place to, if the roads are impassable at a certain point, that maybe that policy needs to change over a little bit, and maybe the plowing needs to get going a little bit earlier. So that's my concern here tonight. I really
But if you want to stick around, we can.
Bring it up.
All right, thank you. And anyone else? Moving on to the minutes from January 19th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Finance Committee.
We met earlier. So number one, I'd like to make a motion to approve the bills and payroll list in the amount of $324,851.57.
Second.
Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, roll call.
Mark Walnitz,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Chris Walnitz,
Yes.
Mapes,
Yes.
And that passes.
And there are no licenses tonight, so I'll move on to 3. Make a motion to approve a bid for a 2015 Dodge Charger from Havel in the amount of $23,363.
I'll second that.
Any questions on the squad car purchase? Hearing none, roll call.
Mark Walnitz,
Yes.
Chris Walnitz,
Yes.
Mapes,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
And that passes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt City of Edgerton Resolution 215, assigned fund balance for year ending December 31st, 2014,
Second.
as amended.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mark Walnitz,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Chris Walnitz,
Yes.
Mapes,
Yes.
And that passes.
Motion to adopt City of Edgerton Resolution 4-15, 2014 budget amendments.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mark Walnitz,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Chris Walnitz,
Yes.
Mapes,
Yes.
And that passes.
Motion to approve a event packet for Edgerton High School STEM Club rocket launch and waive the fees.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mark Walnitz,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Chris Walnitz,
Yes.
Mapes,
Yes.
And that passes.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Anything on public safety?
We met a week ago tonight, I believe is when it was, and we discussed our emergency response plan, and we continue to work on that. And we'll probably be meeting on that soon, don't you think, Tom? You got a date set yet?
I'm sorry, I was...
For the emergency response plan? We don't have anything lined up for the next meeting yet, do we, as far as the date? But we will be having one soon here.
Thank you. Personnel.
Personnel met earlier this evening, and there's a motion to, do we have to vote? We don't vote on those here, do we? Or do I just tell them that it was,
These two numbers,
Do
2 and
have to
3, will
come
require a
forward?
motion, yeah.
okay. Bring forward a motion, oh, these two here on the agenda? Okay, but the other one doesn't. We did have a discussion about the police full-time administrative assistant starting wage. There was discussion on whether to keep it the same or increase it, and the discussion was to keep it at the same rate. Number 2, make a motion to lift hiring freeze to allow filling of the part-time administrative assistant position at the police department.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Chris Walnitz,
Yes.
Mapes,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Mark Walnitz,
Yes.
And that passes.
And I'd like to make a motion to adopt amended City of Edgerton Resolution 12-14A, 2015 salary resolution, amending the amount to $14 per hour.
I'll second that as well.
So that's for clarification, that's the back page of your packet. The 2 squares are the positions whose wages we were discussing at personnel this evening. And the $14 an hour is amendment to the police department part-time administrative assistant starting wage from $13.62 to $14.
The other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Ms. Evans seconded that?
Chris did.
I did.
Thank you. Davis?
Yes.
Chris Wilmans?
Yes.
Aves?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Mark Wilmans?
Yes.
Bless you. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Next item is discuss and consider driveway easement for 16 Albion Street. Everybody got a picture of that?
A brief staff report on page 5 of your packet. So the question before you is, you heard at the last meeting when we talked about two different proposals for the redevelopment of 16 Albion Street. One of the proposals, if you caught it on the plan, showed that access to the garages for that property would be across city property because the back of our property touches 16 Albion. So you could physically go across the city parking lot and get to the back of 16 Albion. So that was, that proposal was not the first that we had heard from people considering the redevelopment of the lot. It's a question that we've been asked before. So if that is a critical piece for any developer's program to be able to access the back of the lot, we should probably know that so that we can let the development community know whether or not that's something that you would consider doing. So the sketch that is there for you, I think there's a, when you look at the plan, it becomes, I think, by seeing the plan, evident that as long as we have parking in the rear of City Hall, we probably will, in almost any circumstance with a modifying City Hall footprint, if it ever got larger, we probably would always maintain a driveway to get to that parking lot. I mean, there certainly are circumstances where you wouldn't, but it's probably likely that you're always going to maintain some kind of driveway as the City Hall building over the next 100 years expands to get to that parking in the back. So if you give an easement to someone, and then the alternative to that is if you never had to get to the back of the lot and you gave someone an easement, then you would be precluding or limiting the ability to develop your lot. That's what an easement does. It restricts your ability to build over some kind of access easement. So that's why you very seriously consider ever giving an easement because it's kind of forever and it's limiting. So I guess what the map showed me when I kind of drew it was that given that we have parking in the back of City Hall and probably will maintain that, I would guess under almost every circumstance, we'll always have a driveway there. So the one statement in the staff report that talks about, I'll say, the flexibility of the easement being critical, in my opinion, about this issue, and Bill, I might ask you, I assume that if we write the easement to allow access, but that access can be relocated we can relocate it as needed as things change, as long as we continue to provide access to that person. It doesn't have to be in the same exact location. Is that true?
That is correct.
Okay, so we could write an easement like that.
You can, yes.
Okay, so if City Hall expands in any direction and we needed to move that easement, as long as we would always want that flexibility, then the question comes back to you is, do you think that offering this easement to someone is such an encumbrance that we simply wouldn't consider it? Then the answer is no, and the person would have to have access from Albion Street for that lot. The reason people are asking for it, if you weren't aware of it, it's a 50-foot wide lot, meaning that when you take 50 feet plus a driveway and a house, yes, there's a whole bunch of houses built all over the country on those kind of lots, but it's not normal anymore. And so if someone can avoid a driveway, they can put a bigger house in there. That's why people are asking about this. So that's the question before you is, do you think we should agree to any developer to allow someone to access across our property to develop 16 Albion or not?
My opinion is I don't see why we wouldn't. I guess if it's going to get us more out of that lot, I would say why not. That's just my thoughts.
I don't know. I guess my initial thoughts are, it scares me anytime we think of somebody has to come through the parking lot and go around and towards the back to their
I mean, there's
area. Just
There's already clearly an easement on the house right next to City Hall.
Yeah, but
Whether there's they access, as you know, Mark's noting an important point, is that parking lot, that garage, the access to that garage is across our property now. Bill reviewed the status of the document that talks about that and whether or not it exists, how tight that easement is for that property. I guess probably what's more relevant is this new easement is going to be more extensive. And again, I think the one thing that really made it clear to me was we're probably always going to have a driveway because we're probably always going to have parking back there. So, I'm not saying that you should, but when I was initially thinking, I was thinking we're forever, so giving up an easement for a city forever is a big deal.
right.
So, I don't know if, Bill, you want to make any comments on that other issue?
Obviously, anytime you do this, you are going to increase the traffic through our parking lot, and that's a safety concern. That's one concern. It is a concern that we are tying up our property, and while we can move it, it has to be substantially similar. So, I mean, we can't so diminish it that it's unusable. That might not be a practical concern, because all I can imagine we'd be doing is pushing it farther back along there, and I don't know that that would ever happen. Probably behooves us to have it as close to the front of Albion Street as possible anyways. But it is a concern. Do you want to give access across your land for any purpose? Most landowners resist that unless it's for a very good reason or does not in any way adversely affect their use of their property. In this case, the adverse use would most likely be potential safety concerns. We do have people going through there. Does this give the appearance of a public street that they're going to be confused? Probably not. It's not ideal, but it does bolster the value of the property, I suspect. It makes it more attractive, and as Chris said, probably will bring a better price for the property, which is maximizing the taxpayer's interest in redeveloping that property.
Would there be any liabilities to the city in this situation, potentially?
Probably no more so than maintenance of Ordinary Street.
Okay.
But it is through a parking lot, and it's people have an expectation that cars are coming in and out of stalls, and it's a little off-putting to have it a throughway, so to speak.
Are we opening a precedence where if somebody on Mechanic Street or the Masonic Lodge were to redevelop those lots, where they would be requesting access from that
It's a good point.
same area?
They could, but again, I think that goes back to what's been said in prior meetings, where that's we deal with that on a case-by-case basis, and we have the right to say no.
I guess the big thing here with me is it's already access to the first house. I don't see where it's going to be that much more of a deal.
Well, I guess not that I would propose this in any time in the near future, but as you imagine a city hall footprint expanding, if you were to continue to expand in the way it's shown on this plan, that house is probably the next expansion. So that easement that exists, if there is one that exists to that garage, goes away. So now you would still be encumbered with one for 16 Albion if the other site became a redevelopment site. So again, no one's suggesting that, and I would never want anyone to think that's in our plans, but logically those two go together. That restriction goes with that property, and so if that's an expansion area, then that,
Yeah. I'm not crazy about the easement.
I guess my question is we haven't really decided on what types of house could be put on that property, and I think maybe it was discussed before as to having a garage in the front of the house. Is that something?
Well, it's really not an option when you talk about if you're trying to make that house fit in with the neighborhood.
Right, and that's what I was getting at. So All right.
Yeah, so that's the issue. If you, people would be happy to put a 4-car garage across the entire front of that house, but we have said that that's not something that we would consider because it would be not
Right.
in keeping with the character of the neighborhood.
All right.
So that's the redevelopment plan that everybody wants.
So is the thought that we make a decision tonight to help anybody who's interested in building on that lot?
Yeah, I think that,
Is that the?
yes, it isn't
Okay.
specifically for any one developer, but there have been several that have asked because they
Sure.
see the connection and they
Right.
can avoid a long
so they
driveway
can-
and make a
yeah,
bigger building.
Then they can make a decision whether it's worth or not.
Exactly.
If we don't get any more developers interested, can we withdraw
Can you withdraw what?
the easement?
Well, we wouldn't record or give an easement unless it was part of a deal.
Okay.
So we wouldn't, at this point, the answer to someone who would ask would be, you are willing or unwilling to give an easement, but we wouldn't record anything until the deal was right for us because we own the land, so we can hold off on doing anything.
I guess the way I'm looking at this photo here, I could see the possibility of putting a house in there and have the drive come off Albion and the garage still in the back. I can see that clearly. You know, and especially, you know, even with a duplex.
Meaning not needing the easement.
Correct.
I can too.
If it's done that, you know, in a certain manner. I think there's plenty of room there for that.
Yeah, it just scares me, and I don't think it's going to be this isn't about a huge amount of traffic, but I know I've even come in, and if people are coming in to pay their bill and using the little kiosk out there, I mean, the more traffic you entertain, the more other things could come up. Well, I'm going to make a motion not to consider the driveway easement for 16 Albion Street.
I'll second
Get
that.
things moving.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? The motion is to deny the easement. Roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Mark Walnuts,
Yes.
Chris Walnuts,
Yes.
Maves,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Motion passes. Mayor, alderperson, and the staff reports. Even with all the issues, Tom, I want to thank your guys for the hours they put in. I know how much fun it is driving a snowplow. Police department for what they had to deal with over this last weekend, and City Hall for handling the concerns that were phoned in and sent in. Thank everyone. Hopefully we don't have to deal with any more of these type of weekends where we have to look at a bunch of that white crap blowing around.
We should be thankful we're not Boston, right?
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I personally think Tom and his crew did a good job for what they had to deal with. So, that's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.